Hi, and welcome to O2 Tara Talks, conversations about one thing you can do right now to stay healthy in your body and your mind. And we always start with a little disclaimer. Today's talk is for informational purposes. Consult your practitioner for information and guidance specific to your situation. Okay, and now that we've gotten that out of the way, I would like to introduce to you our speaker today is DeAnne Gauya. Hello, DeAnne. How are you?
Great. How are you doing, Tara?
I'm great. Thank you. DeAnne, can you tell us in one sentence how you help people?
I help midlifers and optimal or active agers become more stress resistant and resilient and able to deal with whatever comes their way in their life, hopefully with less stress and more joy.
Wow, wonderful. I love that. And I love the active agers too. That's really great. So, can you tell me then and tell us, DeAnne, what is one thing we can do right now?
So the one thing that we could do right now is to learn how to drop from the mental chatter that's going on in our head. Sometimes it's like a ping pong match of thoughts, and to drop from there into our bodies and into our sensations and the easy and into the present moment. So rather than being kind of hooked into the past or concerned or anxious about the future, which is all mind stuff, to become connected with the present. And the easiest
Mm,
do that is to take a long breath in through your nose and a long breath out through your nose, because you can only breathe in or breathe out in the present moment.
Oh, I love that. And I'm a breathing specialist. So I am completely on board with what you're saying. It's our most basic need, right? So if we can really tune into it, it really does have that, ability to take us, like you said, out of our heads and into there. So that's perfect. Um, so can you tell us, like, why now in these conditions that we're living in, why it's more important than ever to really be able to do just as you described?
So I think given the current climate and situation, so many people are very stressed, and they're chronically stressed, which our body is not designed to handle chronic stress, the chronically being in that fight, flight, flee, or fawn response. And so to learn how to down regulate that system by activating the relaxation response, I think gives people a very powerful tool that doesn't cost a penny, that you can just engage in anytime you're starting to feel overwhelmed. You just get in touch with your breath and you sink down. I also believe that learning how to do this can give you a way when you feel, at least for me, sometimes I feel so overwhelmed and upset by things in the media, whether it's social media, their television, whatever. There's just a lot of conflict going on right now. And sometimes if you're sensitive to it, it can really upset your inner balance. And so to learn how to unplug from those things and give yourself a little oasis of peace and relaxation can be really helpful to maintain your mental and your physical health throughout this time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we really are getting bombarded all the time by a lot of scary stuff, and it can really keep you in that. When you're in that fearful state, you're, like you said, you're in fight or flight, where it's not good for our bodies to be. We need to get into that sort of rest and digest phase, and then absolutely breathing can help you do that. So then, can you tell us what would be some roadblocks that we might encounter while we're trying to get out of our heads and get into our, more rest and digest stage?
So I think one of two of the roadblocks could be one. I think in our American society particularly, we're so used to like go go go, do, constantly having to achieve and be on it. And that's that kind of stressed state, hyper alert state, is something that's kind of commended or looked positively upon. And so I think people are uncomfortable maybe with dropping in and dropping down and just getting quiet and being okay with that little respite, that place of peace. The other difficulty, I think, as soon as people really drop into their experience, they sometimes can experience uncomfortable emotions or uncomfortable sensations in their body. They might notice their stomach is a little upset. They might notice that their heart is beating quickly. They might notice that they're carrying tension in their neck. They might, there might be things which they're not comfortable with. So to remain with that present moment, present state of being can be a challenge, and to use the breath to work through it and accept it and kind of nurture it, acknowledge it, and then let it go can be a challenge for people. I think they often just experience something negative and then immediately want to push it away rather than moving through it.
Right. And that's such an excellent point, because I think, as you mentioned, we're always so busy, we're always so stressed. And some of that, in a way, it does help us kind of ignore some of the pain, some of the tough stuff, right? You're constantly going, you just don't have time to notice that. So you're right. Getting into that phase can then bring up some of that discomfort. And I think if we look at it as potential for healing, then maybe we can get a little more comfortable with that. And it's funny that you mentioned about, especially here in America, how we're like drive all the way home. I was talking to a friend of mine who moved to another country, a few years ago, and she basically said, I would never move back to the States now, because the difference in the pace of life and the difference in the demands is so great. I'm thinking, maybe I need to move. When you get so caught up in being on that hamster wheel and everybody else is on that hamster wheel, you really don't realize it. So you do need, a thing like you're describing, so you can step back and kind of notice it. So I love that. So then tell, kind of last thing. So people who are kind of looking to maybe implement this, if they do encounter those two roadblocks, what might be some things that they can do to overcome them, to really help them kind of, get really comfortable with this?
Uh, I think it really is just like with any exercise, physical exercise, it is a practice, and it's a practice that you get better at the more you do it. So maybe the first time you sit and focus on your breath and just being, and whether you call it meditation or just being present, and you notice the difficult emotion, working with it for a little bit, maybe, I don't know, a minute or two, and then say that's enough. And then gradually, maybe you start to be able to deal with it a little longer. It also can be helpful if, like I use the breath, the inhalation to create space, thinking of creating kind of space in whatever that happens to be. So if you picture like a ball of yarn all knotted up, and so this breath just comes in and creates just a little space, and then in the space there can be subtle changes, so it's not like this locked up muscle, or this, you can also make a little bit of softness, a little bit of ease, not complete ease maybe, but a little bit. And then you use the breath, inhaling, exhaling, gradually working with that. And I think people get a lot more proficient at being able to do it just by practicing and taking little baby steps.
Great. So it's like the slow and steady sort of idea, right? Slow and steady wins the race. Take little steps, get comfortable with it. I think it's wonderful because, as we said earlier, I mean, we are in these unprecedented times, and the stress levels are just increasing, especially because of the lack of routines. Everything are disrupting sleep, at night. And then, of course, the daytime is going to be much more stressful then, because you're not sleeping. So you can have this little, this activity that you described, just following your breath, to really help you de-stress too. And I'll mention one other thing here that I talked about with somebody one time, when they were like asking, if I take the breath in, am I taking a big breath in into my chest and stuff? And we're both breathing people. Can you talk for a minute about really what, the breathing, just to make sure somebody knows what you're describing, not this big chest-based breath, but
Yeah, I mean, for me, at least when I coach it, um, I encourage people just to, take when I say a long breath in and a long breath out, so it's not a super exaggerated breath, but I usually coordinate it with a visual, a move, so you're breathing in and thinking of creating length and space in your spine, like lifting up through the crown of the head, breathing out, thinking of rooting yourself into the earth. So again, I use that, and I use a lot of times the image of a mountain, so becoming like a mountain. And I think that grounding for people on the exhalation, I encourage that can help them feel more stable, feel
Mhm.
less, all over the place, more like I'm here now in my body. And so that's how I encourage the breath. Just when I say long, it's not real full yogic breathing, but it's a deliberate breath in through
Right,
the nose,
right,
out through the nose, and knowing that you're breathing in through your nose, knowing that you're breathing out through the nose.
right.
Being
Good.
very
I love that. I love the visualization of that because our bodies really do expand like that when we breathe in, right? If we really study it and get to know the mechanics. So if we can put that visual in our heads, it helps us really appreciate that. And as you said, it helps us really get out of our heads and into our bodies. And that's where we can get into rest and digest. Wow. So really, really wonderful, a wonderful thing that we can do right now, DeAnne. I appreciate it. If somebody wants to learn more about you or get in touch with you, where would they go?
So I have a website, www.gauyafit, GAUYAFIT.com. Otherwise, I'm on pretty much all social media except for Twitter and TikTok. I don't do that one. Anyway, and it's always DeAnne Gauya. I'm the only one out there, so you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. So that's it.
Good, good. And also, I just remember you mentioning that you do some yoga kind of stuff online at one point at least. Do you still do that?
I do. So for anyone interested, I offer virtual vinyasa classes, which vinyasa is just a type of yoga which coordinates movement with breath so that the practice becomes a form of moving meditation. And we're always breathing in and out through our nose. I have 5 classes a week. Monday at 5, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5, and Wednesday and Friday 10:30 and 11:30. So those are open to anyone, anywhere in the world. All I need is your email, and I do them via Zoom. Beginners are more than welcome to join us. The first class is free.
Great, wonderful. And I know for me how much yoga helps me feel good in my body, in my mind. So it's definitely something to think about in these times too. Well, thank you so much, DeAnne. I really appreciate you sharing this one thing that we can do right now because I think it's a terrific one that'll help everybody manage. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara.